All right, let's dive right in. Today we're taking a look at the invisible conflicts that are shaping our world. From the smallest individual action to massive global strategies. The threats we face today are more complex and more connected than ever before.
So, what do a social care worker, a military strategist, and an advanced AI have in common? I know, it sounds like the setup to a really weird joke. But believe it or not, they are all connected in this unseen battlefield we're about to explore. And by the end of this, you're going to see exactly how.
Our whole journey today starts at the smallest possible scale, with an action we probably all do dozens, if not hundreds of times a day. And it's right there, in the most ordinary moments, that some of the biggest threats find their way in.
That's it. It all starts with just one click. It's kind of humbling, really, when you think about it. The biggest, most sophisticated cyber incidents, they don't usually start with some crazy Mission Impossible-style hack. No, they often boil down to something experts call poor cyber hygiene. A device that's not updated, a password you used for 10 years, or just a single accidental click on the wrong thing.
And the cost of that one click? Oh, it can be absolutely catastrophic, especially when it hits our critical infrastructure, the things we all rely on. The impact goes way beyond just a technical glitch. Look at this. The biggest chunk of the cost, 27%, is just from downtime and disruption. But then you've got these huge costs from compensating customers, the damage to your reputation, and the massive effort of just responding to the incident. This isn't just about stolen data. It's about real-world chaos.
So how do they trick us? Well, these phishing attacks can be unbelievably sophisticated. There was this one report on the adult social care sector that talked about an attack using a fake Office 365 login page. And it was so good, it was practically identical to the real thing. It's the perfect example of how attackers weaponize the things we trust and use every single day.
Okay, so let's zoom out from that one click. Because that click doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It's actually the very first link in a chain that connects to this highly organized, super professional, and incredibly profitable global criminal industry.
And this is the business model that has totally revolutionized cybercrime. Ransomware as a service. Honestly, you can think of it like a franchise model for digital crime. You don't have to be some kind of coding genius anymore. You can literally just lease the malicious tools, which opens the door for a much wider pool of criminals to launch these really nasty attacks.
And these attacks, they follow a script. It's a methodical, almost military-style playbook. Once an attacker gets in with that initial click, they set up what's called a command and control channel. It's like a digital beachhead. From there, they start to move sideways through the network, expanding their control, before, bam, they deploy the ransomware and make their demand.
And just like any other big industry, there's a whole specialized division of labor here. It's wild. You've got the developers who build and maintain the ransomware. You have the affiliates, who are basically franchisees, leasing the tools to carry out the attacks. You even have specialists called initial access brokers. Their entire job is just to break into networks and then sell that access to the highest bidder. It's a full-blown industrial machine.
But why? Why does this industrial machine work so well? To understand that, we have to zoom out again. We need to look past the technology and go somewhere else entirely, into the human mind, because that is the real battlefield.
Attackers are basically brilliant, applied psychologists. They get it. They understand that while we're all busy trying to fix technical flaws, the real, juicy vulnerabilities are often our own cognitive biases, these predictable glitches in how we all think. Things like myopia bias, where we focus on what's easy right now instead of long-term risk, or selective perception, where we tend to only see the things we expect to see.
And normalcy bias. Oh, this one is maybe the most powerful of all. It's that little voice in your head that says, nah, this can't be happening to me. Nothing like this has ever happened before. This bias creates a critical delay. It's a window of opportunity for attackers to get their footing. They aren't just hacking our computers. They're hacking our brains. And this idea of exploiting the mind, it's not just for criminals. It's been elevated all the way up to the level of statecraft. You have the Russian military doctrine of Muskykorfa, which basically means deception. It started as battlefield camouflage, but it's evolved into this whole-of-government strategy. The goal is to create confusion, sow doubt, and deliberately weaponize the very same cognitive biases we were just talking about, but on a massive geopolitical scale.
So, faced with this kind of multi-layered threat, what do you do? How do you fight back? Well, The answer is all about building resilience. Let's take a look at the defensive playbook that smart organizations are using to protect themselves. The most direct counter to cognitive bias is a structured way to challenge yourself. NATO calls this red teaming. The whole idea is to create a team whose only job is to think like the enemy, to poke holes in your plans and to break that dangerous normalcy bias. In short, you're stress testing your own thinking before an attacker does it for you.
And mature organizations, they don't just hope this happens. They build a formal structure for it, like the 3 lines model. It makes sure that managing risk is everyone's job. The first line is, well, everyone, managing risk as part of their daily work. The second line is your expert team, like the cybersecurity folks. And the third line is an independent check, like an audit, that makes sure the first 2 lines are actually doing their jobs properly.
Okay, so what happens when the absolute worst-case scenario unfolds anyway? You need what's called a digital life raft. This is a pre-planned, totally separate bit of infrastructure. It's like a digital emergency bunker. If your main systems get torched, this raft lets your core team communicate securely, access critical plans, and manage the crisis without making things worse. It's all about assuming you might fail and planning for it.
We've looked at the individual click, the criminal industry, the psychological tricks, and the defensive playbook. But now we have to talk about the final piece of the puzzle, the one force multiplier that is going to change, well, everything: artificial intelligence. AI is the ultimate double-edged sword. On one side, you have the threat. It's poised to supercharge every single attack we've talked about, making phishing more personal and disinformation more powerful. But on the other side, you have the promise that it can accelerate our defenses and unlock scientific progress we can barely even imagine.
And look, this isn't some far-off sci-fi idea. The concern is real, and it's here, right now. When you survey leaders in critical national infrastructure, they're already worried. AI-powered phishing and malware are at the top of their list. They can see exactly how AI is going to lower the bar for attackers and just explode the number and quality of threats.
But, and this is a really big but, let's flip to the other side of that sword. This quote from Dario Amodei, he's the CEO of the AI safety company Anthropic. It just captures the incredible scale of the potential good. He argues that the risks are so important to get right precisely because the reward on the other side is a world that is radically, fundamentally better than our own. So what does that radically better future even look like? Well, in his writing, Amodei lays out a vision where AI helps us do things that sound like pure science fiction. We're talking about speeding up biological discovery by 10 times, basically cramming a century of progress into a single decade. We're talking about maybe doubling the human lifespan, curing or preventing most mental illness, and even getting rid of extreme poverty. I mean, this is the massive promise that's driving the race to build this technology safely.
So that brings us right back where we started, to our social care worker, our strategist, and our AI. They're all pieces in this gigantic, complicated, and invisible puzzle. And it leaves us with what might be the defining question of our time. On this new, unseen battlefield, where we're creating tools of almost unimaginable power, how do we make sure we use them to build that better world, and not just a more efficient war?